let the uprising begin.
There are only two genders, and one of them is right here. It's the box that rocks. This is the Angela Box Show.
Okay, guys, the Somali plot doth thicken. We've learned a lot in the last week. We've not only now know that whistleblowers are popping out all over the place, and my theory of the case is that it's twofold. Number one, they don't want to be caught with their pants down, and they want to be like, I want it to be on the record that I said something. So that's, I think, motivation number one. Motivation number two is because these public servants had been cowed into silence because, you know, Somalians are black, so you can't hold black people to account for anything. I mean, just look at any major Democrat city. Is that not the rule, not the exception? Okay, so it's not going to work. It's not going to work. And this is really an example of karma in action, because there's a lot of karma coming. So let me start going through the stuff I've collected on this little topic here. First and foremost, a new whistleblower has come forward and said that there is fraud not only in Minnesota, but evidently there's lots of diversity in Maine, of all places now. Maine, which used to be as lily white as they come, now has more diversity than they can shake a stick at. And so the Somali community in Maine has the same issues as the Somali community in Minnesota. And wouldn't you know it, the Somali community in Ohio has the same issues as the aforementioned Somali communities. And, you know, I feel like Ohio is really getting lucky, because not only are they getting, a glut of Somalis who eat the most disgusting food evidently on planet Earth. Insert Jacob Fry trying not to vomit here. Not only do they clearly have the most disgusting food on planet Earth and so much diversity and cultural enrichment in Ohio, so not only does Ohio have the Somali community, but they have the cat and the dog eating community too. The Haitian community, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, Ohio's cup runneth over. Anyway, back to the story. So evidently there are whistleblowers coming out all over the place, telling on what is going on in these states with these Somali families. Now, CBS actually committed a random act of journalism, and I submit to you the only reason that this was on CBS.com and maybe on CBS News, Barry Weiss, who is just, the lady of the hour when it comes to independent journalism, and is a billionaire now. And it's ironic because I believe she was once fired from CBS. And now she's running CBS. She was fired from one of the main ones. I don't know, one of the left-wing kook organizations, when she had the temerity to question the COVID insanity. And she was like, maybe we should have some critical thinking about this. And they're like, no, off with your head. So she was like, fine, cool, I'll start the free press. And now she's a billionaire back at CBS. Anyway, because someone bought the free press. Okay, anyway, here's what's going on in Minnesota. And, we're going to get to Governor Jazz Hands in a second, and Governor Jazz Hands' rationale for all this. But they are spending millions on luxury cars and private villas, and all of these were meant for kids, right? All this money was meant for kids. I'm going to show pictures as we come up here, and I'll read these to you. A confirmation email for a stay at an overwater villa with a private pool at Radisson Blue Resort, Maldives. So, foreign travel. Lakefront property in Minnesota. Receipts showing wire transfers to China and East Africa. That's interesting. Why would that be? Oh, could it be because they were funding terrorism? Oh, you guys are so dumb. You are so dumb, because now the whistleblowers who have come forward realize that not only are their whistleblowing efforts going to be encouraged and applauded, and they want to get out in front of everything, but we have an administration that doesn't give two shits about being called racist, and we're actually going to look into fraud. And y'all little Somalis over there, you never thought that would happen, did you? You never thought that there would actually be someone who wasn't getting the kickbacks and would prosecute your asses. Anyway, first class tickets to Istanbul and Amsterdam. Again, Istanbul. Interesting. 2021 Porsche Macan. Stacks of cash texted between defendants. I mean, and now you guys, it's not just the 59 families or people that they've already identified. Y'all, this thing goes deep and wide, and as we know, it is going to touch a lot of elected Democrats. Okay, my guess would be one Ilhan Omar and Governor Jazz Hands and Jacob Fry and many other white Democrats like Senator Tina Smith and whoever else. I mean, throw a dart. Now, speaking of Ilhan Omar, before we get to this Governor Jazz Hands stuff, because this is really the crux of all of this as to why this did not get reported on a very long time ago, okay? And we're going to get to that. But here's the Ilhan Omar. Here's the deliciousness. Here's how you know that this heifer is cooked. C-O-O-K-D. C-O-O-K apostrophe D. Cooked, okay? This heifer is cooked. Roll the clip of her and why she's cooked.
So this video here of Democratic Representative Ilhan Omar stating that her goal is to work for Somalia within the United States government. I don't know about you guys, but this sounds a whole heck of a lot like treason to me. Last time I checked, that if you are a sitting representative, if you are a sitting senator, if you are in the administration of the president of the United States of America, or if you sit in any office around the country, in any state, in any county, any city in this country, if you hold one of those positions, your job is to serve your constituents, not work on the behalf of some other country, not work on the behalf of some company out there that have, gave or filled your coffers up or filled your campaign coffers up. No, your job is to serve the constituents of your district. And when an individual this bold can come out, even though they're speaking in a gnarly language that none of us understand, but you've seen the captions there. I mean, this is crazy. This is crazy. This is treasonous behavior, in my opinion. But was this the game plan all along from the powers that be? I want you guys to see this video right here.
This document this sets out how they believed at the time, after the failure of the Bay of Pigs, that there was no direct, immediate way to overthrow Castro in Cuba, and that was what was required instead was a massive commitment from Congress in terms of money and manpower beyond these special operations being done in the form of Bay of Pigs. But the CIA was frustrated that that political will from Congress did not exist. What they're saying here is, since we can't get Congress to take the action we want them to, we don't have the authority because the American people are not voting for what we really want to do. The other option we have is to just do mass immigration of these exile communities of immigrants and refugees. And over time, if we give unlimited support to these exile groups, they will form enough of a lobby on themselves to affect the internal politics of Congress, with importing tens of thousands of Somalians into Minneapolis, Minnesota. Lo and behold, that produces a congresswoman like Ilhan Omar, who then goes and advocates on behalf of the Obama foreign policy for Somalia and Eritrea and Kenya and the whole region. Seeing that in writing from the Cloak and Dagger Central Intelligence Agency 60 years ago, and that we're dealing with the same issue right now as we take on the immigration issue, really is a sort of back to the future moment.
Yeah, people need to understand that these folks are playing.
So, y'all, if the White House is putting this heifer on blast, her time in this country is running out, okay? And this just makes me wonder, is her white savior husband, Timmy, is Timmy going to go with her to the beautiful, wonderfully war-torn streets of Somalia, where evidently she and her family had to flee many, many moons ago because they were the part of the Soviet communists who were torturing the Somali community in Somalia? Y'all, This is going to be great. Now, let's get to the Tim Walz thing. There's a couple clips I want to pull. Okay. And this is all connected here, okay? So the whistleblowers that had come forward for years, who told Governor Jazz Hands for years, there is a major problem in the Somali community. We've got people like Ilhan Hirsi Ali, who wrote the amazing book Infidel, raised in Somalia, had her genitals mutilated by some Muslims, and basically has come to the conclusion that although she's an atheist because of the horrible experience that she had with religion, although she's an atheist, she knows that she wants to live in a Christian nation. I wonder why. Anyway, Ilhan Hirsi Ali came out and said that this is well established in the Somali community. Familial fraud is what she called it. Incredibly well established in the Somali community. So again, you've got I have to wrap this up. You've got groups of people in these governments now coming forward going, oh my God, thank God, finally, we can actually talk about this. Roll the clip of the of Minnesota lawmakers pushing back on Somalia when questions were asked and why they got pushed back on. Roll that clip.
We should note that they're not done in charging the head of the autism fraud scheme. The prosecutor said it's just the first in the ongoing investigation. It's not isolated. Of course, each case that they bring exposes another strand in the network.
Right. And to your point, will state leaders like Governor Tim Walz be held accountable? How much culpability do they have?
Yeah, as the New York Times put it, in 2020, the Minnesota Department of Education, they were noticing that they administered the children's meals programs, and they became overwhelmed by the number of applicants for feeding sites to feed children meals. And they began raising questions about the invoices they were getting. So the fraudulent group, Feeding Our Future, they threatened a lawsuit. They said, well, we're going to accuse you of racism, and it will be scrawled across the news. And so they backed off. A report from the nonpartisan Minnesota Office of Legislative Auditor looked at this. They later found that this threat of litigation and of negative press affected how state officials use their regulatory power. They simply backed off. They decided, one investigator said to the New York Times, the state's leaders were afraid that forcefully tackling this issue might cause political backlash. So yeah, they're going to have to be held accountable.
Yeah, which is wild because it's still causing major political backlash. And this has also led to scrutiny of so many other programs in Minnesota that receive federal grants. I mean, it's endless at this point. What other funding have you uncovered going to the Somali community there in Minnesota?
Yeah. So we just did a quick search using a few keywords. We were able to find $27 million in additional federal grants that went specifically to the Somali community. And that's since fiscal year 2021. There's probably more. About half of that was spent on various projects at the University of Minnesota. A lot of them were assimilation issues with the Somali community, trying to get them to sort of assimilate. Things for $467,000 for a project, trying to reduce barriers like anti-Muslim racism and rural social isolation that impact Somali youth. One for $773,000 called Training Research Educators in Minnesota while increasing diversity. Lots of things like that. $2.6 million for autism spectrum disorder research. That's separate that we know of from the state autism program where that fraud was found. That program started with $3 million, that fraudulent program, $3 million, and it went up to $400 million 5 years later. So there was a lot of money there. Another group, Food Group of Minnesota, they said that they're working toward food justice and equity for Minnesota farmers to give them culturally appropriate resources. That was $2.2 million from the federal government. There's a lot more funding that could fall prey to fraud and should be looked at. And as the CMS administrator, Dr. Mehmet Oz said, everyone from Governor Walz on down needs to be investigated, and they have 60 days to start fixing this, or they're going to lose all of their federal funding from Medicaid.
Right. All right. Deputy Public Policy Editor for OpenTheBooks.com. We'll be following it with you. Rachel O'Brien, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
That's right, you guys. They were racist. They were racist if they brought anything up. Because, again, you have to let black people do whatever the hell they want. And because I guess they can't control themselves at all, let's excuse rampant criminality because, they can't help it. Anyway, the last clip we're going to talk about And then I want to get to a story that is truly going to boil your blood. Okay, so Governor Jazz Hands, and this is just, right on cue, okay? So after all these whistleblowers were saying, listen, we got so much pushback for years saying that if we reported this stuff, we were racist and we were this and that and xenophobic and all this crap. And then Governor Jazz Hands is like, why should we even be talking about this? Because, actually it's white people that do all the crime. So let's deflect from what I oversaw and what I allowed to happen under my watch at the very least. And more than likely, everyone check Tim Waltz's overseas accounts because I guarantee he got some kickbacks. Roll the clip of Tim Waltz blaming the white man.
Do you want to hear more from members and leaders from the Somali community to say, we need to look at ourselves, we need to hold our own neighbors accountable, because look at the damage that this has done to our community. What do you want to hear more from, instead of just saying, don't blame us? Do you want to see more ownership and oversight from within this?
Look, it's not law-abiding citizens. If that were the case, there's a lot of white men should be holding a lot of white men accountable for the crimes that they have committed. I think for the community to maybe educate their population, because I think what you're seeing here is there's secondary victims in this, that there's providers inside the community that are then victimizing the community themselves by signing them up, because when we're going to some of these people, they're like, I had no idea I was in this program. So I think it's asking us then, for every crime, which of course the majority being committed by white men, asking us to do more about that. I think it's crime in general. And I think the biggest thing on this is just making sure that we're educating the population. And again, this is 80 people or so that have been convicted in this, maybe some more in that.
Okay, and finally, y'all, cultural diversity. We need to just shut the border for the next 20 or 30 years like we did in the 1920s and start assimilating the people that we have here, get rid of the people that should not be here, and move on with America becoming great again, because this is out of control. Now, this is a story you will not see on anything but like X or Gateway Pundit, which is where I found it. A white woman suffers severe burns to her face, neck, and scalp after a stranger douses her with acid in the park. Suspect at large. Now, I'm gonna pause. I just want you to pause the video and think. Like, put in the comments, like, Angela, what race was the person who did the acid attack? Go ahead, pause the video and put it in the comments. All right, 3, 2, 1. You will not be surprised. It is a person of African descent. I don't know if they are an American citizen. I do not know if they're an African citizen here illegally. I have no idea. All I know is it's a black person who randomly threw acid on the face of a white woman at a park. I mean, I wonder what the motive could possibly be. I mean, couldn't have anything to do with her race, could it? And imagine for a second if the races were reversed. The country would be burning down, and this would be wall-to-wall coverage. I'm inserting pictures of this woman. Please pray for her. This is an absolutely horrific thing to happen to anybody, and I hope they find this monster and lock him up and throw away the key. All right, that is where I'm going to leave today's video. Please let me know what you think down below. Until next time, everybody, keep kicking ass, taking names, and they will be done. Peace.